We analyze Ukraine's operations targeting Russian ammunition depots and equipment. We put in a lot of effort to bring you the most up-to-date footage from the Ukrainian front. If you'd like to support us even a little, feel free to send a super thanks. Stay tuned and keep watching. April 7th, 2025. The 429th Achilles Unit, a special reconnaissance and assault force of the armed forces of Ukraine, continues to draw attention with its recent high-precision operations. In one such operation, the unit focused on a strategically important target area near the village of Besonivka in Russia's Belgorod region. This area hosts Russian ground force positions and ammunition depots, making it a critical logistical hub. During the intelligence phase of the operation, a military vehicle conducting active patrols in the region was detected. It was assessed that this vehicle was likely being used to supply frontline units with logistical support. Believed to be responsible for transporting ammunition, fuel, and communication equipment, the vehicle was kept under prolonged surveillance by Ukrainian reconnaissance teams using advanced drones. After remaining within Russian positions for a while, the vehicle began moving away from its location, prompting Ukrainian forces to act. Coordinated by the Achilles Unit, the attack targeted a Russian ammunition depot. The strike was carried out with pinpoint accuracy, resulting in a direct hit and the complete destruction of the depot. The size of the explosion also affected other nearby military structures. Following the successful hit on the primary target, the operation entered its second phase. HIMARS rocket systems were deployed to the area to strike additional pre-identified Russian positions. With the use of highly accurate guided rockets, several Russian artillery positions and trench lines were neutralized. As the defensive line in the area collapsed, a strategic gap was opened up for Ukrainian forces to advance. At the same time, the disruption of ammunition supplies to Russian reserve forces in the area weakened their ability to maintain long-term defensive positions on the front line. This successful Ukrainian operation not only weakened Russia's military buildup near the border zone, but also eased preparations for Ukrainian counteroffensives. The effective use of advanced weapon systems like HIMARS continues to play a key role in gaining asymmetric superiority in the war. Considering the strategic positioning of these ammunition depots, the village of Besonivka in the Belgorod region is located very close to the Ukrainian border. This proximity makes the area strategic for the Russian military, serving both as a defense line and a logistics hub near the front. Besonivka acts as a transit point for supplying Russian frontline units with ammunition, fuel, food, and troops. For this reason, the area often sees high traffic from military vehicles, supply convoys, and unmanned aerial vehicles. Moreover, villages like this are often used as command and control centers during wartime. Critical operations such as field coordination, intelligence relay, and artillery targeting are managed from such border-adjacent regions. Targeting settlements like Besonivka causes not only physical destruction, but also significantly weakens Russian defense systems. Strikes on these areas cut off support to frontline troops and lead to a loss of morale. April 4th, 2025. Special units Sicario and Solovey of the Ukrainian Armed Forces detected Russian infantry elements operating near Berlatsk in the Donetsk region. At the beginning of the operation, Ukrainian forces secretly observed enemy movements, analyzing the actions of Russian soldiers in open terrain and waiting for the right moment to attack. After watching the approaching Russian soldiers for some time, Ukrainian operators took advantage of a tactical opportunity and launched an attack. In the first phase of the operation, Ukrainian UAVs were directed at the enemy. When the Russian troops noticed the approaching drones, they panicked and opened fire. However, it was extremely difficult to hit drones in open terrain while they were in motion, and the Russian soldiers failed in their attempts. Ukrainian operators continued their attacks, targeting coordinates with precision. The enemy's positions, both grouped and scattered, made them more vulnerable. Taking advantage of this, Ukrainian forces, with artillery support, carried out effective fire strikes, intensifying the assault on Russian positions. As a result of the attacks, some Russian soldiers were killed on the spot, while the survivors tried to take shelter in nearby wooded areas. However, Ukrainian forces continued their bombardment, neutralizing those who sought cover and leaving the enemy vulnerable. Despite the repeated observations of how dangerous it is to advance in open terrain without protection, Russian forces continue to repeat similar tactical mistakes. April 4th, 2025. In the next video, the Ukrainian Armed Forces 214th Opfer unit spots a Russian soldier lying motionless in a grassy area in open terrain. According to the footage, this soldier had likely become exhausted after prolonged fighting and found this location safe for resting, as he did not detect any threats in the area. However, he was completely unaware of a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone observing him. Once the operator confirmed the soldier's position, a bomb was dropped directly onto the target using the UAV. After the explosion, a large dust cloud rose, but something unexpected happened. The Russian soldier, despite being hit, stood up. He started walking slowly and unsteadily, showing that he had been seriously injured in the blast but had managed to survive. This scene is both shocking and reveals the limits of human psychology on the battlefield. The injured soldier, despite seeing the Ukrainian drones circling above him, continues to move forward without panic. He is tired, wounded, and alone, yet there is a sense of resolute acceptance in his actions. After taking a few more steps and pulls a hand grenade from his pocket, quietly, almost determinedly, he pulls the pin. However, he has no intention of throwing it at the enemy. Instead, he plans to use it to end his own life. After a few seconds of waiting, the grenade detonates in the soldier's hand. With the explosion, the Russian infantryman dies on the spot. This footage starkly portrays the individual tragedies of war and the pivotal moments in which humans make life or death decisions. A wounded soldier with no escape and no hope chooses to end his own life rather than be captured or targeted again by a drone strike. April 4th, 2025. We witness a compilation of recent operations carried out by the 66th Mechanized Brigade. In the first footage, a Russian soldier is seen running towards ruined houses. As he approaches, he is shot and neutralized because there was a Ukrainian soldier inside the house who shot him as he got close. In other footage, Russian infantrymen moving in small groups around the area are individually identified and eliminated. Many of these soldiers are not on a mission, but rather trying to survive, as most are sent on suicide missions with no support from the Russian forces. These soldiers are often sent to war zones without proper training, equipment, or morale. Numerous reports reveal that the Russian military sees these soldiers as expendable and places almost no value on human life. This approach is a scandal not only from a military strategy standpoint, but also in terms of human rights. The Russian government often fails to inform the families of soldiers killed on the front lines, and in some cases, the bodies are not even returned. This demonstrates that Russia does not value the lives of its citizens and embraces a brutal and primitive win-by-numbers mentality in war. On the other hand, despite such tactics, the Ukrainian military and people remain resolute in their determination to defend their land. Russia's disregard for human life further proves that the invasion is based on an illegitimate and ruthless foundation. April 5th, 2025. In an operation carried out by the 81st Air Mobile Brigade, a Russian infantry group advancing near Belgorod village in the Luhansk region is detected. The group, traveling in an all-terrain vehicle, is spotted by Ukrainian reconnaissance units. The Ukrainian drone operator patiently observes the vehicle and its occupants, aiming to choose the most effective moment to strike. After moving forward for a while, the vehicle stops and a few soldiers begin to disembark slowly. At this point, the Ukrainian operator seizes the opportunity and launches an attack before all the soldiers have completely exited the vehicle. A bomb is dropped on the target area, causing dust and smoke to spread. As panic erupts among the Russian soldiers, the survivors quickly begin to flee. However, this is just the beginning. The Ukrainian drone operator continues to closely monitor the fleeing soldiers. Within a short time, a second bomb is dropped, neutralizing 2 more Russian soldiers. The last remaining soldier, in a panic, manages to get back into the vehicle and escapes the area quickly. This operation slightly deviates from Ukraine's usual military tactics. Typically, Ukrainian forces prioritize destroying enemy vehicles, as this limits their mobility and disrupts their logistical support lines. However, in this operation, the drone operator chose to focus directly on the infantry. While 3 Russian soldiers were neutralized, 1 soldier managed to escape. This scene once again highlights how every moment on the battlefield is a decision point, and the outcomes of tactical choices can be decisive. April 5th, 2025. In the next video, we will witness Ukrainian forces destroying Russian infantry, equipment, and artillery in the Kharkiv direction. In the first footage, we see the 120mm self-propelled mortar Nona, a weapon favored by enemy paratroopers attempting to flee from its firing position. A Ukrainian operator follows them with an FPV drone. Russian infantry scatter as they hear the sound of the drone. The first hit lands on the armored section of the vehicle, preventing its destruction. However, after a while, Nona malfunctions due to the impact of the first hit, and the crew attempts to escape. This time, Ukrainian forces want to destroy it and strike the Russian vehicle with 2 FPV drones. The explosion destroys Nona, and a piece of shrapnel from the explosion hits one of the Russian infantrymen dismounting from the vehicle. Only 2 Russian infantrymen remain. The Ukrainian operator attacks before they can escape and kills 1 more Russian infantryman. The last remaining Russian soldier realizes that fleeing is futile and hides under the wrecked vehicle. However, this does not work, and with another FPV attack, the Russian soldier is thrown from the vehicle. This soldier also meets the same fate as his comrades and is killed. The 120mm self-propelled mortar Nona is a versatile weapon developed during the Soviet era and is particularly used by Russian airborne troops. It can fire mortar rounds, short-range shells, and anti-tank ammunition. However, this vehicle has largely lost its effectiveness in modern warfare. Especially against Ukraine's developed FPV drone technology, Nona has become an easy target to destroy on the battlefield. Nona's armor is light, providing protection only against small-caliber threats. In FPV drone attacks, the vehicle is quickly disabled, and often the ammunition inside detonates, completely destroying the vehicle. Ukrainian forces' tactics against this vehicle are clear and effective. Typically, the first drone strike disables the vehicle, and subsequent second and third attacks completely destroy it. The crew's attempts to escape rarely succeed, as operators continue to closely track the target. Destroying these vehicles weakens Russian artillery support and significantly reduces the defensive capacity of Russian infantry on the front lines. Ukrainian forces detect another armored vehicle in the area. The Ukrainian operator targets the infantry riding on top of the vehicle and launches an attack. After the explosion, another drone carries out an attack. This drone's task is to stop the vehicle. The strike is made directly at the front of the vehicle. The strike is successful, and Ukrainian forces manage to stop the vehicle by hitting its engine compartment. The explosion also affects the ammunition inside, amplifying the blast's intensity and completely destroying the vehicle. While continuing their reconnaissance operations, Ukrainian forces spot another enemy combat vehicle. The vehicle is stationary. The Ukrainian operator strikes a vulnerable part of the vehicle. Immediately after the explosion, another FPV drone hits the same part of the vehicle again. Then, a third drone strikes the rear of the vehicle, delivering the final blow and destroying the Russian combat vehicle. Other Russian armored vehicles in the area are similarly destroyed by Ukrainian drone operators. April 9th, 2025. The 63rd Mechanized Brigade is conducting operations against Russian forces north of the village of Terny in the Donetsk region. In the area, a Russian soldier who has become separated from his comrades is spotted by a Ukrainian drone operator. The Russian soldier, on foot, tries to evade drone strikes. Although he manages to do so for a while, the muddy terrain restricts his mobility, making it impossible to escape further. The Ukrainian operator ultimately ends his life by shooting the Russian infantryman. Other isolated Russian soldiers in the area are similarly detected and neutralized. These images reflect the despair experienced by Russian soldiers who have been separated from their units after heavy clashes or left behind during retreats. Russia's poorly planned offensive tactics and uncoordinated operations have left many soldiers exposed and defenseless on the battlefield. This situation paints a grim picture of the war's human dimension. Russian soldiers who become separated from their units often experience a loss of both direction and hope. The suppression of satellite systems, the disruption of radio communications, and a lack of geographical knowledge forced these soldiers to struggle for survival in forests, ruined buildings, or abandoned civilian areas. For them, war is no longer a tactical battle conducted through a chain of command. It becomes a fight for survival marked by hunger, cold, disease, and loneliness. Thanks to the Ukrainian forces' success in encircling and monitoring the region, the hiding places of these soldiers are being identified. However, many of those who surrender are unable to provide any information about their commanders or objectives. Most are left behind without communication or move in the wrong direction in a state of panic. These breakdowns signal not only a military collapse but also an ideological and human one. Forced to the front lines and kept in the dark about reality, these soldiers have become victims paying the price for Russia's aggressive policies. April 9th, 2025-1. The Burovai Brigade has identified Russian troops and shelters in the village of Kolesnikivka, located in the Kharkiv region. The small number of Russian forces present in the area are being taken out one by Ukrainian operators through reconnaissance operations. Since Russian units had previously occupied the area in large numbers, various types of ammunition are still found there. Ukrainian forces are detecting and eliminating all remaining Russian elements. The village of Kolesnikivka, located in the eastern part of the Kharkiv region, has become a significant target of Russia's aggressive military strategies in recent months. Due to its proximity to the Oskol River and its facilitation of movement toward Kupiansk, Kolesnikivka has been seen by Russian occupation forces as a logistical and tactical stepping stone. Russian forces, particularly in the autumn months, launched heavy assaults around Kolesnikivka with the support of armored units and artillery. However, in the face of these attacks, the Ukrainian army responded with extraordinary resistance and tactical skill. The armed forces of Ukraine have repeatedly halted Russian advances in the area through the use of drones, mobile defensive lines, and nighttime operations. In a counter-offensive conducted in September, nearly 40 Russian armored vehicles were neutralized along the Kolesnikivka-Krylyakivka line. As of December 2024, Ukraine had largely regained its positions in Kolesnikivka, delivering a heavy blow to Russia's expansion plans in the region. The Russian units that reappeared in the area were weakened and destroyed in the face of successful operations by the 1st Burovai Brigade.